Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. We're going to make a Guyanese classic comfort treat called tennis roll. And this is enjoyed with cream soda as your drink or lemonade, whichever way you enjoy it. It's a great dish to make for your family. The name tennis roll comes from its shape. It's shaped like a tennis ball. Here's the recipe, and it's also in the description. Please feel free to make copies and keep in your recipe box. Good evening, guys. We are going to make tennis roll tonight. Just mixing the dough so that I can use it in the morning. So if my voice is a little low, it's because people are sleeping. In this bowl, I have the flour and salt, and I'm making double the recipe that I've posted. So I have 7 cups of flour and 2 teaspoons of salt. And in here I have all the other ingredients. The milk, I've doubled the recipe, butter. I added a pinch of flour in here because that helps my yeast to rise. And sugar is in here, the milk, the water is in here. I'm going to add my yeast to the mixture now. So I'm going to let this sit overnight so then in the morning I can make it up. That'll be a nice treat for everybody. Fresh tennis roll in the morning. Tennis roll. I decided to do this recipe because the Olympics is on. Doesn't matter, whatever yeast you like to use, go ahead. I mixed mine. I did a dry instant and a traditional. I like the flavor of both. And I'm just gonna stir this and let my yeast come alive. And once it has, then I will add it to this mixture. Okay? So remember, I'm doing double the recipe. If it looks like a lot, that's why. And the recipe is posted above, and you can also find it in the description. Okay? Also, one quick note is that my milk and water is warm to the touch, not hot but warm. Okay, I'm just going to cover the yeast down to keep the container warm and allow it to rise for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's almost 10 minutes. I'm just going to mix the salt into the flour so it's even. And now I'm going to make like a little well to pour my liquid in. Let's cross our fingers and hope the yeast has risen. Let's see. Oh wow, yep. There we go. So in here's all the ingredients. The water, the warm milk, the water and the milk is warm. Sugar, butter, essence, zest of lemon and orange, and I also added a little bit of almond essence. Guyanese people love almond essence, so I mean, it's a fluid recipe. Feel free to add or take out what flavors you don't like, with the exception of the yeast and the butter and milk and water. You can, you know, pretty much change the flavors, but for the authentic flavor, you definitely need the zest and the vanilla. Okay, so now that this is ready, I'm going to pour it into my mixture. And I'm going to mix it by hand. Okay, And once it's fully incorporated, we're going to butter the bowl and then leave it to rise. And about an hour, we're going to punch it down and let it rise again. But because I'm making this late at night, I'm gonna let it rise all night till the morning, punch it down and let it rise again for 40 minutes. Then I'm going to make off my rolls, and then I'm going to let it rise for another 40 minutes. Then it's time to bake. Okay, so let's get this nice and kneaded. At this point, if it's too mushy, you can add a little bit of flour. And if it's too firm, you can add a little bit more liquid, but make sure it's warm. So it was actually perfect amount. I just rubbed my hands along the bowl to get it clean. It's not too much mixing, but I just want you to see that the dough is still soft, a little sticky. You want a soft dough. Soft dough means soft bread, okay? Firmer dough, you're gonna get a drier, crispier bread. And that goes for any kind of bread. So just look at the texture. And now I'm going to grease the bowl and shape this into a ball and put it in and cover it down. So here we have our dough. As you can see, it was quite sticky. So the leftover butter I had on my hand from wiping the bowl with it, I just covered the top with the rest of the butter. You can see some pieces there. And the reason you butter the bowl is to allow the bread dough to climb up and rise, so it doesn't stick and hold on. It allows it to nicely slide up the side of the bowl. And we already discussed how to let it rise. And I told you that I'm letting mine rise overnight, which is a great way, you know, if you're a busy mom or dad, to make the dough, and you can have nice, fresh smelling bread in the morning. So now what I'm going to do is move it, make sure you move it in the counter, because I've had times where it's overflowed and fell on the floor. So make sure you move it in the counter. You get a wet cloth, tea towel, okay, and then we're just going to cover it with the tea towel like that, and you leave it. If you were doing this quickly and you wanted to let it rise for 45 minutes, then put in a warm spot, but because I'm leaving mine overnight, it doesn't really matter. Just the countertop here is nice next to the work kit, and we'll make it off in the morning. Okay, so it's been a few hours because I was sleeping, and this is our first rising. You can see the dough is very alive. I'm just going to punch it down. I formed it back into a ball. Just gonna rub the butter back around. It's the same butter, but when the bread rise, it pushed the butter around. And now I'm gonna cover it back down for a second rise. Right now it's like 5 in the morning. Because I chose to do my dough overnight. So this is just an example. But if you don't do it overnight, you just do the 40 minutes rise twice, and then form the balls and let it raise another 40 minutes. So now I'm gonna let mine do a second rise. I'm gonna get a glass of water and go back to bed. And when I get up in an hour or two, I'll be able to make my tennis roll, the rolls. Oh boy, look at what happened here. This is the second rising. And now we're gonna punch it down and make our rolls. Okay, so here we have our beautiful dough. So beautiful, guys, look at it. Okay, so we have a nice clean surface here, and we're gonna portion it off. Now is the time you want to put your oven on. The temperature is 350, but my oven is really strong, so I'm gonna go 345, but 350 is good. So when I say make it into a ball, this is how I do it, just because I didn't get to show you before because I was using hands-free. I was videoing with one hand and trying to cook with the other. So this is how you create the ball. So every time I punched it down, I would make it into a ball like this. Okay, so now that we've got most of the air out, now it's time to cut it into portions. You can use a scale if you wish, so that each piece is uniform. That would be the way that is most probably most like efficient way to do it, or you can just eyeball it. So I'm just gonna cut this kind of into half, and then again another half. Okay. So now we have pretty much 4 even pieces, right? And from this now we can cut it down, and you can choose to weigh it if you wish, or eyeball it. Again, I'm just gonna eyeball it because I don't think most of you have scales at home. So, and I don't think you need me to show you how to weigh something. So this is there. So in half. And then we're gonna do this into 3, okay? So, let's go here. Oh, that looks too big, because remember, this is gonna double in size. So, let's do it into 4. Half again, and then half, and then half, okay? So, there we have our pieces. From the 1 piece, we got 8. Okay? And now we're going to just roll it into a ball. I'm using the cup of my hand, no flour needed. And we're just rolling. See that? Now my dough is still a little tacky, so if you wish to put some flour, you can. I'm gonna grab some here. Just a little there. And I'm not gonna put it on the dough itself, I'm just gonna put it in my hand and touch it. And this is just so you get a nice smooth surface on your roll. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's still a little tacky. We're not trying to dry out the dough because we still want it to be moist, okay? We're just trying to get a nice smooth surface. So I'm gonna place this on my baking sheet. You don't need to butter your baking sheet if you're using parchment paper, which I am. I'll show you. Okay, it's quite a large baking sheet that I have. And I'm just going to continue to do this process until I have them all done. So in this pan here, I have 3/4 of my recipe, which I did 2 recipes. And I'm just brushing it with a bit of milk and water mixture. And the mixture is 1 part water, 1 part milk. And it's a whole milk. All the milk in the recipe is whole milk. If you choose to substitute, you can, but the flavor will be different because fat does equal to flavor, and you'll have to maybe adjust to that, right? So we're just brushing it, and the reason for this is just to create a bit of moisture because it's got to rise now for another 40 minutes. So we're just trying to create moisture. I hope you've put your oven on at this point, 350. So while the bread rises, it's not going to dry out. You can see that the bread absorbed the first time I brushed it, so it's a little thirsty, I think. And now I'm going to cover this with a damp cloth and leave it for 40 minutes. Once that time comes, we're gonna bake because our oven should be warm by then. Okay, so it's only been 15 minutes. Our dough is still rising for the last time. I just wanted to show you, if you've never had tennis roll before, these are like some traditional things you can have with it. Of course, it's just like any other roll, and you can put whatever you like, but cheddar cheese or Edam cheese is very popular with it. Just regular salted butter, we call it salt butter, or the salt butter with guava jam, and you would just put equal parts salted butter with guava and mix it together. This mixture is also a favorite of mine when roti is being made. Also great on crackers. It's a favorite of mine as well on crackers. And this is awesome on your roll. Okay, so while we wait for that, you can prepare your condiment that you'll have with your roll, and we'll be right back once we get them in the oven. Okay guys, so it's been rising. Some of it stuck to the thing, so it's okay. It'll smooth itself back out. Just try to be as gentle as possible. This happens sometimes. Shit happens, right guys? Just gonna affect the smoothness, I think, on the top. So it's pretty much doubled in size, which is what I wanted. I'm gonna give it a last brush with milk again and water. 1 part water, 1 part milk. And the parts that pulled up, I'm just gonna try to smooth it out with the milk. Tennis roll always had that like smooth top, but really, I think it's more important to have a soft roll. Right. So I'm gonna keep brushing them. Now we're gonna put them in the oven, and it varies. So now I have 2 different size trays. This is a smaller tray and a larger tray, so they'll cook in different times, but approximately to the 15-minute mark, or you can use your God-given bread tester, which is the nose. Once it starts to smell, then you know it's getting towards the doneness level. Plus, the people in your house will start to circle. That's also a good way to know that it's done. See, people are stealing cheese. So I'm gonna put these in the oven now. My oven's been ready for a while. My condiments are ready, and I'll show you once it's finished. So I just rotated the bread because this side is not that brown, and this, it's the halfway mark, and we just rotated it. Okay guys, so here is our beautiful tennis roll. You see the glaze on the top? I went ahead, as soon as it came out the oven, I buttered it with some, with a brush and some butter. It doesn't have to be melted butter. Some of them did pop like this, and that just happens because I didn't work the dough enough and take out the existing air in the dough. Doesn't make a difference for flavor, but aesthetically, it's not nice and round like these guys are. So now that it's been buttered, I'm going to cover it back with a cloth and leave it for 10 minutes. After that, eat and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. It's a family favorite. If you're Guyanese, you know it's a comfort thing. I'm going to enjoy mine with a nice cream soda and some milk. And I hope that you'll make this for your family. Thanks for watching, and God's blessings. So I've cut my tennis roll. Just want to show you, it's cooked all around. Inside is very good, and doesn't matter how much I press on it, it comes right back. So that's a good identification that it's cooked. Here are some great condiments to go along with your buns. I thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And once again, God's greatest blessings be yours.